Hey, what is going on, comic book familia? Peter, you like the intro?
I like that. Yeah, that's very jazzy, Efren. Very upbeat. I like it.
Yeah,
It's good.
I was working on it yesterday. We both use Canva, and I can't talk about it enough. And anybody who goes on YouTube, check out canva.com. It's a really great site. That's where we do all our thumbnails, our little
Yeah,
intro videos, stuff like that. Really fun. Yeah.
yeah.
So today we have a special video. We are interviewing Kyle Nurtuine. He has a new book out, but let's bring him out first, okay?
Yeah.
Kyle, how's it going?
It's going good. It's just another glorious day in paradise,
Yeah.
living the dream.
Don't
You
don't say that. So when you say a glorious day in paradise, are you talking about the weather and things over there? Because
Yes.
Efren always upsets me, Kyle, because it's raining cats and dogs here. It's horrific.
So yes and no. I mean, I do live in South Florida, so for a lot of people, it's gorgeous year round. Me, I more prefer the cold. I like it when it's cold and rainy, which it is kind of. I mean, cold for Florida and rainy. So I like that personally, but I say that as more of my state of mind.
Good man. I mean, I'm
Like
happy
it,
to swap with you if you want. You can come and stay over here for a bit, and I'll go surfing or whatever it is you guys do in Florida. You know.
I'm sure my folks would love that. They'd be like, you'll finally see where Grandpa's from.
you guys read my mind. I was about to talk about the weather with Kyle for a little bit because Peter knows how much I live in San Diego and the weather's just not as nice as Florida, but it is nice, almost year round. But we got that out of the way. This is a special show. I have known Kyle, God, for about 2 or 3 years now. He's a very good guy. We communicate back and forth every now and then. And about a year ago, he told me he was coming out with a book, and Kyle, I'll let you take it from there.
So yeah, I've been working on this story. It's called Here Walks Monsters for the better part of a decade now. It initially started as a novel. I was about halfway done, completing around 20, 30 chapters. I was shooting for like 2 to 3,000 words, 2 to 3,000 pages, and then my house got robbed. And my computer, along with my external hard drive, and this was many years ago when the cloud wasn't as not only readily accessible but also trustworthy. Like we all were kind of like, "Oh, I'm not putting my stuff in the cloud." No. Um, so I only had about 3 chapters and a few other things backed up. So once they stole that, I was like, I'm done. It's over. Like the dream is over. And then let's say about 5 years later, I found not only those 3 chapters but the entire roadmap. I am very OCD and I over analyze, over plan everything. So I have a like 35-page Word document dictating every single stop, every single person they'll meet, the item, like down to like the items, the exact brand, make and model, everything of what we're gonna do and see. And then I said, wow, I should really start doing this again. And then I was like, but I don't want to write a novel. That's not what I want to do right now. And then all of a sudden, a few of my people I really respected, they came out with their own comic books. And I went, huh, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this a comic book. And then it's been a long process. I mean, I've been telling it for a while. I've been working on the comic book Ashcan for a better part of 2 years now.
Wow.
And I had a lot of hiccups, a lot of bumps in the road, and we're finally here at the Ash Can on Kickstarter. It's at 75% funded. It's only been up for 10 days. So that's like the outpouring of support and positivity surrounding it has been nothing short of amazing, really, to be honest.
Nice. So before we go on with our questions, let's see who's tuned in. So Fuzzy was here 24 hours early. That was my fault. We were supposed to go on yesterday, and then I got confused with the time zones. Peter has daylight savings times also, but his happened last week, so that threw me off. I think Kyle's on the East Coast, so and I'm an old guy, and I said, let's do this tomorrow.
It's 3 time zones, all right?
Yeah.
Cut him some slack, all right?
And we also have Nigel. Hey, Nigel, thanks for showing up. And some guy named Triple G's here. So
I wonder who that is.
Heard he's very good looking.
Yeah. So you
I've
ready
heard
for
that,
the questions? Oops, hang on.
Absolutely. Yeah, fire away.
Peter, you are first with the first question.
Okay. I mean, I guess the first things for me, Kyle, I just want to say your story there about how you got into this is, I think for a geek like me who's been reading comics, and I know everyone's been reading comics around about 90 years or something like that, but for someone like me who's been reading a long time, it's kind of the dream for a lot of, I think, to actually start producing my own comics. So, massive hats off to you and props for actually getting off your backside and doing it, where a lot of would don't. And I'm sure we're going to touch on how challenging a process that is in terms of finance and all that kind of stuff later on, I'm sure. I'm a massive horror nerd as well. I do another channel which is all about horror. And I've looked at your Ashcan, the images that you've got, and it's superb. It's really creepy. I like the whole aesthetic of it. I love the colouring, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I guess I'm wondering, what pushed you towards that particular genre? Why not superheroes? Why did you go horror, zombies, monsters?
Well, so the easiest answer is why I didn't go superheroes, because it's ridiculously oversaturated. And if you're not Marvel or DC, you're basically, there's always exceptions to this rule, but in most cases at this point of how long comics have been out, you're just rehashing the same characters over and over again. And one thing I truly love about indie comics, and especially horror indie comics, is that they seem to tell the absolute best story.
Yeah.
And there's many reasons behind that. One, because if it's an indie book, it's got to be good, or it's not going to get a second issue or even put out in the first place. Where some Marvel or DC books, they'll just get put out regardless how bad they are. Yeah. But what I'm really trying to tell in this comic is, I believe that humans innately are monsters or animals, and the only reason why we behave the way we do is because society makes us.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of push the envelope and kind of take the human experience to the darkest levels, and kind of like in doing so, showing how good we are to people and how we should probably even be better to people because of how far we really could fall if society is no longer there telling us how to behave. And I think, how do you do that? And it makes sense. Well, it has to be some type of post-apocalyptic event. And me, I mean, I immediately gravitated towards zombies because that's some of my favorite, like, when it comes to horror, I love all horror movies, but I can watch a god-awful zombie movie and still be entertained.
Yeah.
It's not that way with everything. And so that's just, for me, it's like, man, zombies, it's just, and yes, it's been overdone, it's oversaturated, but at the same time, there's so many new and fresh ways to tell this story. And I think that's why I gravitated towards that the most.
Yeah. It's really interesting you say it, because me and Efren have spoken an awful lot, haven't we, Efren, about how we started off absolute Marvel DC fanboys, but we've gravitated heavily towards indie self-published books because that's where the quality storytelling is. So, that's really interesting, mate. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's take a look at any comments from anybody here. Gomez guy, thanks for showing up. We always appreciate it. And you ready for question number 2? This is mine. How did you come up with the name Here Walk Monsters?
So, I when it comes to naming zombie titles, it's really easy to go, Walking Dead, or like something with dead in it, or Reanimated or something corpse related. And my story is not about the zombies. There's also infected, so mine is gonna have both zombies and infected, so it can't be argued. Oh, it's not a zombie book. It's an infect. No, it's both. Watch your mouth. I planned this expertly because of that. But it's more, and my artist actually, Martin, he said it like this. He said it's a human story set in a zombie apocalypse, and I was like, yes. And I think by the end of the book, the end of the series, you're going to start thinking, who are the monsters? Is it the people who have the conscious ideas of what they're doing and understanding and planning and torturing and all of that stuff, or these monsters that they're singly mindlessly driven just to consume? You're looking at it almost as like Mother Nature versus humanity. which is the evil here? Could Mother Nature destroy all of us? Absolutely. But are we the problem? That's kind of what. So here walks monsters. Wherever you're walking, whether it's a human, a zombie, infected, they're all monsters.
I
That's how
love
the
that.
main character looks at it.
I love that twist. So infected is going to be different from zombies, but do infected
Yes.
eventually become zombies, or they have like a time period where they
So
or do they just stay infected?
the initial outbreak is from reanimated corpses from a pandemic. So a whole bunch of people got sick and then came back to life. They are zombies.
Okay.
Anyone they bite then becomes infected, which is different, and there's a different turn period. And not to give too much away for what's coming later, there are you don't being bit or having blood or all that stuff is not a death sentence in my universe.
Okay.
So, but if you're a zombie, that means you were dead and came back.
Yeah.
Versus being infected by the zombie virus.
Yeah. Peter, you up?
Interesting.
Next question.
Interesting. Yeah, the art style inside it and the colouring in particular really are quite striking. So let we know a little bit more about the artists you've worked with.
Okay, so Martin, oh my God, this guy. So this is actually both of our first work in comics. We've both written stuff before, and he's done artwork of comic book characters and stuff like that. But this is our first published work. So we went into this because I've always been a fan of his work, and in my the ideal perfect version of my comic book would be black and white with blood red and then eye color. I wanted to do eye color, but I was talked down because of just how next to impossible it would be to do with the scaling, with the grayscale and everything like that, and the extra fee for that little bit extra.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. There will be certain panels where the eye color is colored in just to give some more dramatic effect, but I've always pictured it like that.
Yeah.
He works predominantly in black and white. And so my first thought was just to do it all black and white, and think in my head, hell, I may even be able to save a little money and everything like that. And then I just knew I wouldn't be happy because I always, even before the Marvel Black, White, and Bloods came out, I love that I was like black, white, and blood and red. Why don't people do that more? That's just so striking.
Yeah.
And when I did my writing, I wrote it very cinematically. So there's one panel at the end towards I don't think it's the last page of the ash can where the zombies are just blacked out. So you just see the silhouettes.
Yeah.
And so and then there's still red all over the place because these zombies are getting attacked. And I just always wanted it to be so cinematic, and I remember watching Sin City because I didn't read the book first. I watched the movie first and was like, wow, this is a comic. I gotta go back and read this. I remember watching that and going, this is the most stunning thing I've ever seen. And if I'm writing my first comic book and it's gonna be in the horror and zombie genre, it's gotta be gray, black and white, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I wanted to honor the Walking Dead and all the comics that came before me, while still being my own thing.
Yeah.
And he just knows what I mean. It's my first time writing. I wrote scripts, I've wrote papers and this, that, and the other, but I've never wrote a comic script. And I'll write something and he'll just know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I really, really noticed that when my letterer came on board, because he didn't. And that's not discredit to him. It was me leaving things out and just assuming that he would get it. Because it's, again, my first time. With Martin, I literally left a whole descriptive panel out one time, and he came back with the art exactly as I wanted it, without the description that I really meant to have on there. So I just got so used to that. So I now I know consciously I'm going to make sure I put things extra clear, because this is my trial and error.
Yeah.
But when it came to just his work, it's just I'm so lucky. And the fact that he is not a published comic book artist already is blasphemous. and honestly, I hope, if nothing else, it it takes off his career, because my running joke is I know they're not gonna not like my book because of the art. So if they don't like it, it's because of me. So that's my running joke.
That's a really interesting point, Kyle. And first of all, I think the artwork is absolutely stunning. I don't know if it's a question later on, but that splash of red at times, I just love it. I love it. But I do a little show that reference also works on with us as well, where we get amateur artists in, and we do kind of challenges, and Efren does challenges with the team and stuff. And some of these amateur artists, the work is just phenomenal. And then I look at some of the published comic book work and I think, I don't get it. I don't understand why these guys are still not published, and yet others are. It must be very frustrating.
I think part of the reason is a lot of the especially the big two, they get really comfortable with certain creators, and they just know that either they can get what they want out of them, or they know what they're getting out of them.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier to go with what's understood and what's like already approved than to try to build something new. Like, I mean, it doesn't come with any name recognition. Like, you put like Hickman on a comic, people are go, "Oh, Hickman's writing it, I want it."
Yeah.
That's I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
A little side note, Martin, Peter, you remember my first icon when I had the P and the 1? He drew that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yes, he's the one. I reached out to him to do that, and I actually interviewed him on my channel. It was one of my first interviews on my YouTube channel. Really nice guy. When you told me you were working with him, Kyle, I went, "Oh my God, you picked such a nice person to work with." They're very humble and easygoing artists, but I just don't. I was taken by surprise that he hasn't, published any. This is his first comic book. God, he's so talented,
Yeah.
But there's so many talented, artists out there. Some of these questions we're going to ask you, Kyle, you've already answered, but I'm going to ask them to you. I'm going to ask them anyways. So,
fair enough.
First one is why zombies? I mean, I think you answered a little bit, but you could have chosen other monsters, correct? But did you always focus on zombies?
Oh, for my first title, I knew I was going to do zombies. Once I decided that I was telling the story of the fall of humanity, my first and only thought was zombies. And then I was like, well, I guess I could do aliens. I want post-apocalyptic. A lot of other monsters are not necessarily in that realm. Like, don't get me wrong, my goal is to write multiple different comics and to have like vampires is another one I would love to tackle. There's so much like uncharted territory in vampire stuff. I mean, I would love to do a whole, like, they're doing a monster universe now with Image Comics. I would love to do something like that. I mean, one of the people I'm working with very closely, John from Encase Comics, he's actually writing a comic, a horror comic as well. And we've actually had preliminary discussions about maybe even having ours as a connected universe, because his is set in the future, a distant future. So I kind of pitched like, what if it's after the rebuild of the fall of in my comic, and it's the rebuild and another fall? And he was like, "Oh my God, I love it." Yeah. And where we've already had preliminary discussions about teaming up to write a Game of Thrones style, series. We want to actually bring in a total of 4 different writers, and each have a country or place that we write for, and then have them pick their own artists, and then all the stories would cross over, and it's all one universe, but it's different stories. And we were trying to think of a way to do it almost like a turn base, so like we don't necessarily even know what the other is doing. Yeah. But we can't do anything too crazy. Like, I mean, there'll be dragons. Can't just fly a dragon into the king, into the castle and blow. There are rules, you know what I mean? Like that we'll have to follow to make it, a worthy story. But where I would love this is hopefully just the first.
Just the start.
Yeah. Cool.
Good stuff.
All right, Peter, you're up with the next question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you kind of already answered this one, Kyle. We're just kind of trying to understand why this is different, or how this is going to be different to other zombie-infected comic books.
So I apologize for answering all this stuff.
No, not at all.
I do a solo podcast, so I'm used to answering my own questions. Yeah. So I was kind of prepared for this. But so what makes this different is the biggest thing and the most apparent is that it's not zombie focused. They're definitely heavily in it, and they're a big part of it. But my story is more on the 2 main characters and their journey to safety.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm gonna have a lot of comedy in it, since this is based in a world like ours. It's not our world, but it's a world very similar to ours in many ways. So zombies and things of that nature are entertainment prior
Yeah.
to the apocalypse. So, and there's pop culture references and things all throughout it. So, and I really like, because in many cases people deal with trauma. A lot of times they go right to comedy.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of this main character in this world. You're not going to really know if he's a messenger on path from God, if he has just completely lost his mind, or if he knows he's in a comic book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So throughout the whole story, the reader's going to try to figure out what is the deal with this character.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people in a lot of scenes will be these characters will be very relatable, and then flip to do something horrendous, and you'll go, I just related to that character that just did that.
Yeah.
So it's more, while there is the gruesomeness and the zombies and all of that stuff, it's more a story about human interaction and the duality of man and how far the human race can fall, while being in this horror zombie genre. It's I like to say it's The Walking Dead if it had the realism of The Last of Us.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
So, because like the characters in The Last of Us, they become their own little monsters even before or whether or not they get infected.
Yeah.
And they took it to a much darker route where I think humanity would absolutely go.
Yeah.
And that's partially because of where it aired. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I mean, the comic book, they went pretty dark in the Walking Dead comic book. They only could do so much on AMC. But that, I still think even with the comic book, I am going to take it a step further.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to really try to push the envelope as what's believable for someone who has nothing to tell, holding them back. What could be the darkest, depravest thing that a person can do? That you'll see in my book.
Yeah.
And because I truly believe that, society is what keeps humans from being animals. The only thing, really, because while there are moral people, and there's always exceptions to every rule, but there are moral people, and there are good people, and there are bad people, and everything in between. But as a collective, if you look at when there's that's a terrorist event or a natural disaster, there's always those stories of people helping each other and doing great things, but there's also a lot of people destroying and doing a lot of bad things because they know they can get away with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that to the next level.
You know what? I think you're absolutely right, Ken. I think without getting into politics and all that kind of jazz, I think the last couple of years have shown just how far we can sink and how cutthroat we can be as a race. Yep. So yeah, I think it's. I'm really. I mean, I loved your Ash Khan anyway, but I have to say when you started talking about the title, Here Walks Monsters, not necessarily referring to the zombies, that's got us even more intrigued and more interested, if I'm honest.
And that's what I was going for, because I mean that's the story I'd want to read versus just another zombie story. Yeah. So
one thing that I like, Kyle, and you reached out to me months before this was you had it all done and on Kickstarter. He asked for my opinion on how this character was. I went, oh my God, you're asking me? So I like the fact. I'm sure you asked other people also, but it
was a very, 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 very small group. But yes, okay. It was basically. I think there's 5 people.
Oh, okay.
It's definitely less than 10. That I respect their opinions of not only as a comic book creator, like in the creator space, but as a person. Mm-hmm. So those are the people I know. If I can get them to give me their honest opinions and give me any type of advice how they would want it, I can make the story that much better. Because yes, this is my story, and I'm not going to let anyone's opinions or anything affect it. However, I'm selling it to consumers. Yeah. If the consumer doesn't want to read it, it doesn't matter how good my movie or my comic book is, because they're not going to go buy it. And let's be honest, while I love making, it's all about, for me, it always has to start from a place of creation and love for the properties. But it ignore the financial aspect of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
You know, not only putting it together, but also possibly making money off it and things of that nature. It has to be thought of. And if someone I respect will give me their honest opinion, they're here. Please be honest.
Yeah.
The one thing I've become very humble in the last couple of years. I had risen to the top and then fell right back to the bottom. And I know that I don't know everything. And when there are people who have never once made me question their morals or their opinions, there are certain people that can't be bought. You know what I mean? Like, you can't buy an honest opinion.
Yeah.
And I knew I would get an honest opinion. So that's why I reached out to you. And like I said, there's 5, maybe 6 people that I was like, hey, I need some advice. What do you think of this? But for the most part, I've kept this very, very, very close to the chest, for multiple reasons. The biggest of which is that I didn't want to show the world before it was ready.
Yeah.
Because now I've got something that I'm really proud of, and it's to the point where if it doesn't succeed to the level I'm thinking it will, it's already succeeded past what I could have hoped. Because this is my first comic book, my first Kickstarter. I have no business being in this realm. I'm self-publishing. I'm doing everything myself. No one was like, all right, kid, write this. I was like, guess what? I'm writing it. Deal with it. So it means a lot to get the right people's opinion before I really pushed to the distance that where we are now.
Wow, this is weird, Peter, but my computer is stuck. I can't get onto the comments. Can you?
Let me just see. Have you got them saved in banners?
No, I'm talking about the actual comments from the.
Oh, the comments. Sorry.
Can you
Yes,
click-
yeah. Do you want me? I'll do comments for you, Efren. Yeah, we've got.
I can't get rid of this banner right now for some reason on my computer. It's weird. I'm trying to click off of it, but it's frozen. Can you get off of it?
Let's have a look.
You can tell we're live, Kyle, because we're having technical difficulties. And there we go.
There you go. I have control.
It's okay. I had technical difficulties before, so I mean, listen, we love technology, but it doesn't always work when we want it to.
Yeah.
We've got a few comments. So just to mention, Fuzzy's saying here. Fuzzy, by the way, Kyle, is one of our biggest supporters. He's a superb guy. He's saying it's a great concept with the eye colour, very, very clever. He's asking if you've got an end in sight, or is this a plan to have multiple arcs? That's a good question, Fuzzy.
Yeah.
So answer is yes to both. As I said, I have the full roadmap. I know where so the plan, and this is me, fantasy soapboxing, great best case scenario. The plan is to have multiple stories that weave into one, and fall off onto their own, because Here Walks Monsters is really the introduction to the universe. Okay. And there are certain characters that you meet along the way that will get their own one-shots. Right. So those will leak. They will come into the story and leave, and then you'll see what they do moving forward in their one shot and how they got to where they were. Where you meet them in the main storyline. But I definitely have an end to this, the first Here Walks Monsters run. What comes after that, I don't. Because I do know a specific character is going to survive, and I want to continue that person's story, which would be past what I've planned out.
Okay.
So, I mean, best case scenario, absolutely, and we'll keep this going until I'm 900 years old, and as long as people still want to read from my universe or any of my universes that I might create, I'll keep writing.
Absolutely. Good stuff. We've got James Keegan here as well, so welcome, James. Efren, shall I just put the questions up?
Can you bring up the slides?
Yeah. The slideshow, yeah.
The slideshow, yes. And you bring up the question, do you have a favorite page? And just go through the slides.
So this is, character-wise, this is my favorite page right here. Because you see the characters for who they are. Now, these are the two main characters. The name of the main the male character here is quote unquote to be determined. The only reason why it's to be determined is because for the most part of the book, he's not mentioned. His name isn't said. He has a code name that he goes by in the book for the people that he knows. Because in the character's mind, anyone who doesn't know that name is to be destroyed. Okay. In my path, you're gone. So they call him by a code name. So I haven't really decided what his name is.
Peter.
Like the real name.
Peter. Peter's a nice name.
So maybe, honestly, and the reason why I say maybe is because the female character, her name is Karen. And I picked that name deliberately because I know so many amazing Karens that are not a Karen.
A Karen, yeah.
And I want to try to display that just because their name is Karen doesn't necessarily mean they're a Karen.
Yeah.
Because this character is the absolute opposite of a Karen. Very loving, caring, understanding, a very motherly figure, so, and very protective. As you can see in this panel, this page right here, we see the main characters here, they see zombies, and her initial reaction is to push him into cover. Yeah. Hit the zombies and run and take them away. Yeah. Even though he's a capable fighter and actually technically wants to be fighting, just initial reaction, oh no, I gotta protect him, boom, push him into this bin and protect him, and I'll run away. And so, you also do learn a little bit later that they have a plan in situations like this, so it's not as, because one thing I'm very conscious of when I'm writing, especially a female character, is I don't ever want to make them look weak unless it's for that specific, like if they're captive and they're being, something's really bad's happening, of course anyone would be weak in that scenario. You know what I mean? I don't want them to be weak because they're a female character. So like in this scene, I remember looking at it and going, you know what? Someone's going to say, oh, look, she ran a typical woman, which is not what happened at all. They have a plan in these scenarios that they get split up. She fires the arrow she has, runs to a non-closed area, and just hangs tough until the main character can get there. Yeah. And I'm very conscious of all those things because, I mean, the main character, he's short, so he's going to have limitations. I think that's part of the reason why I decided to write this story in general as well, is because when it comes to certain things in entertainment, they're usually shown one way. Yeah. Short guys, they're normally the buddy little friend, the butt of the joke. Women, in horror movies, they're the first ones to die and they're weak. This is not how my story is going to play out. These are real people that have real limitations, but also have real value, regardless of their height, sexuality, sexual preference, anything. These are people just trying to survive. And that's why in that panel, we asked my favorite pages, it's that one, because he says, I could just be free. I could just do what I want now, and I don't have to worry about someone looking at me going, wow, did he just fly off the handle?
Yeah.
And she's like, you look like you're having a good time. You're dang right I'm enjoying myself. We just had a zombie fight, and I'm covered in blood, and let's go. You know what I mean? Like that's at that point in the book, the character is very much still in this is so cool, because we're going to learn later that the character is a nerd, and that this is something that he actually was hoping for. Yeah. And then by the end, because in his head, going to working a 9-to-5 mundane job was just torture, and he would rather be out there, fighting, kill or be killed. It just makes sense to him. Yeah. And then, as the story progresses, obviously he's going to start missing the couch, missing the TV, and missing all of the great things we have in life that they no longer have because the world has ended. Mm. Isn't this what you wanted, though? And it's another little plot thread, a little theme. You don't always know what you want, and when you do get what you want, it may not be exactly what you thought it'd be.
I think one of the hardest things to do in a comic book is when you put in a word that normally people don't hear, and on that first page you had spilch. I go SPLICH. Who came up with that sound, spilch?
That which
Show
one?
them the
Which page was
first.
that?
Show them that page,
What's it? Is
Peter.
it
The
page
first
one?
the first one. Slide. No, which one? Keep on going. Right there in
Yeah,
the middle.
spilch.
That's the
SPLICH.
letterer. That's the letterer. And
Okay.
then so that's what I was saying when he, because initially I was gonna push this out months ago, and I mean like MegaCon weekend. My plan was to leave MegaCon and announce I'm launching the Kickstarter. But what I did was I had the artist do lettering for the first time and had the comic done pretty much. I brought it to MegaCon with me, not physical, and I showed some people. All said pretty much the same thing. The story is interesting, the art is phenomenal, but the lettering sucks.
Oh.
I legit had someone say, "Dude, the lettering is trash," and I was like, okay. And when it first, like, I guess I kind of knew all along because there were certain parts that I was like, I don't know if I like that. I don't, but maybe I'm just being overly dramatic and overly picky. And then when I got that feedback from people who've actually made their own comic books, not only on Kickstarter but in published works as well at some smaller indie presses, I was like, I knew that was the God's honest truth. And especially when all of them said the same thing, in just different words. And then I actually almost gave up again. I was like, you know what? That's it. I can't I don't know what to do. And then I had the balls to reach out to Dave Lentz, who is a very prominent letterer for like Good Boy and a lot of Source Point Press titles. And he initially took it was like, hey, yeah, sure, let's talk. And I'm like, oh my God, one of my favorite letterers is going to letter my book. No way. This is it. This is how I become the man I want to be. He's like, and then he had to back out because he had a previous commitment that was initially scrapped that was unscrapped. And he couldn't make any type of commitment. And I said, I understand. Thanks. And again, just kind of like, man, what do I do now? And then John from Encase Comics, he reached out, and I can't thank John enough for the kind words and the motivational words he's given to me over this process. Because I've in my mind given up 20 times, and either I messaged him or he just knew, and would message me, and just talk me off the ledge that he didn't even know I was even on. And then he introduced me to his letterer, and the rest, as I say, is history.
Well, I mean, those pages we've put up there are getting an awful lot of praise, so there's lots of people commenting. We've got James from One Good Scare saying he loves the art. Going back to the names, Fuzzy saying the character sounds like a fuzzy. Karen, Fuzzy sounds perfect. No, Peter sounds perfect. We've got Hoodrat here. Nice to see you. Efren, I'm just taking over because I know you can't.
Oh yeah, my computer's not responding at all.
Don't worry about it. Yeah. Fuzzy saying he loves the red flashes. Sometimes in comics, when they use it, it doesn't really add anything, but this definitely adds. Yeah, I think it looks absolutely stunning. And One Good Scare Show again saying he 100% loves the reds. JJ's comic stuff. Hey, that's my friend Kyle. Now, Kyle, next question for you then. Let me just find it. And I think it kind of ties to some of the stuff you were talking about a little bit there, but interested in the process of getting a comic into print. So, what was the Kickstart process being like? How's that gone?
Well, so before you even get to the Kickstarter process, you got to write it, you got to get someone to draw it, and then you got to get someone to either color it if you're going that route or letter it. Again, this is my first comic book that I've written, and I've been unbelievably lucky. When Martin said yes, it made it possible. If Martin doesn't say yes when he does, I don't know if I would be here today. So I don't want to sound like I'm just giving everyone praise just to give it, because that's not what I'm doing. It's I'm just part of this. Yeah. This may be my story, it might be my creation, but without the team, I can't get here. So, and especially working with someone like me, I'm very, very, very picky when it comes to my stuff. So the amount of edits and the amount, to the point where there is still one page that's being edited by the letterer right now because I went back and was like, actually, can we change this? Because I think it'd look better like this. And of course, they're willing to do it all because they see, and I've gotten very lucky. People have seen my vision and what I'm trying to do and believe in it. And without that belief, man, I would have given up a long time ago. But when it comes to the Kickstarter process, man, that was actually one of the most frightening things for me personally, especially since the way Kickstarter works is it's either all funding or no funding, which is terrifying because I've put a lot of work not only to make the property, but to promote it, to try to get people to go to the Kickstarter and all of that. So if I get to 99% and I don't get it, I start back at 0. And it's terrifying. And I'll be honest, thankfully, again, very lucky that I've gotten to the 75% funded with 20 days to spare. I'll tell you what, if it was lower than that, like lower than 20% still at this point, this would be a very, very different interview. I would be freaking out probably. So I can't stress enough how incredibly lucky I am with not only the creative team and with all the support I've gotten. I mean, there's so many people that are promoting it for free because either they love it so much or they love me so much.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of issues with believing that I'm talented and, imposter syndrome very hard. I'll tell you what, my imposter syndrome is getting its rear end kicked over the last couple of weeks with the amount of support I've gotten for this. The hardest thing about creating the Kickstarter was really just to, pick the goals and like things that would be interesting for people. One of which is already sold out because I only did 5. I had a option to actually be drawn into the book.
Yeah.
5 people jumped on those real quick, and when those sold out, I was like, oh my god. Because think about it, they still get a digital copy, and they don't. Maybe it is a physical as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but to want to, and it was $150.
Yeah,
it's not cheap. You know what I mean? It's not an arm and a leg for everyone, but $150 come out of my. If $150 came out of my checking account right now, I'd be very upset.
Yeah.
That's a good amount of money. So to believe in my story that much, to want to be a part of it, I mean, it's insane. And I have a couple one other stretch goal where another reward where you can get into the book, whether as either your name or a logo. So
I'm eyeing that one up, Kyle. I'm eyeing that one up. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going for. Yeah.
If you get that, I mean, you don't even necessarily have to be your name. Like I've done these a few times in the past, very sparingly. So one person who has already won that, I'm using their name as it appears in in our universe in the nerd sphere, and I made a fake business around it.
Yeah, oh, nice.
So like the guy, Squall Cloud is his handle. So it's gonna be Squall Cloud Therapy, and it's gonna be in the background of one of the scenes. He was like, "Dude, that's freaking amazing! I love it." Or like you can have your name on a sign or a logo in a window or on the wall. There's a lot of cool ways to just get in, and I since it's in this world or in a version of our world, I kind of did this on purpose, hoping that maybe in the future, if it takes off, big companies might want to get in it. I made sure when I had him design the truck that we have not even seen yet, I was like, make sure it is the front is as anonymous as possible. And the lights on the back as anonymous as possible. He's like, why? Because I'm hoping someone's gonna buy the rights to it, and we can reprint it with their logos on it. He's like, damn, that's a really good idea. Listen, I'm a textbook overthinker, and I've had almost a decade to think about this. So this is just the beginning. And if we can get this funded, the next 2, because I'm gonna write them in batches. So like. This is Ashcan. I'm gonna do issues 1, 2, and 3 in like a vacuum together. 3, 4, 4, 5, and 6. I want to do them in almost trilogies, so there's true storyline, and I want to make it like work, so it's not just another day in the zombie apocalypse. This is they're traveling in, in this world, things will happen, but you can't just throw things at the wall.
Yeah.
Oh look, zombies! Ha! Ta-da! That's what that's what a lot of the zombie genre has become. Just throw as much gruesome and horrible things as you can in there, and it'll be fine. Will there be that in my book? Absolutely, but it's not the focal point.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, whilst we're talking, Kyle, sorry, Efren, I'm just thinking now is a good time to link to this as to how people can support the book. So we know it's on Kickstarter. Do we have the link, Efren?
Yeah, it's right below that is how to reach Kyle. You see the?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in my link tree, and also one thing I will credit Kickstarter is if you search it, it'll find it. So if you go into Kickstarter and just type in "Here Walks," it'll probably be the first thing that shows up. But it's "Here Walks Monsters." It's the ash can. You don't necessarily even have to support it, but if you want to just share it, because somebody probably will.
Yeah.
There is ways you can just get a digital copy. If you want just to read the story. I wanted to make this, and the reason why I went with single issues too versus a trade or anything like that is because I want there to be collectability value as well as a good story. So if someone's just going to read the digital, you're going to have a great time. But if you're looking for that collectible first appearances, key issue type things, you're going to get that as well with this comic, because that's part of the experience for me at least.
Peter, go to the last slide. It has. I took a picture of his webpage so everybody can see what it looks like.
And what we'll do is we'll share this in the description of this video, and I'll share it. And I know everyone will on our Instagram.
I love that panel.
Social medias.
That's his page, so you know what it looks like. I love the Halloween theme, by the way. So that's cool.
Yeah, once they gave it the update that I could have that, I was like, mine, and you better not take this away from me for the rest of the year because I want this forever now.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that.
Good
Those
stuff.
are all his links, so.
Back to the questions, Efren. I'm just quickly squinting through because I know we've covered some of them. Efren, I think this was one of yours.
Yeah, Kyle. How does it feel seeing your creation dreams coming to fruition? This must be such an exciting feeling. You've been mentioning it on Kickstarter. You're up to 75% already, and there's 20 days left. That must make you feel good, like get your creative juices flowing and wanting to do more.
No, it really does. I like I said earlier, I have a hard time a lot of times giving myself praise and seeing what a lot of people see in me, but the amount of support I've already received and the like criticisms as well as pointers as the whole community, the ones that I become close with, have really come together and then helped, whether it's just sending a couple images, what do you think of this, or helping me get back on track or connecting me with the right person. I can't say enough how amazing this community has been, and the fact that they want to be a part of this journey with me, it's hard to put into words. I'm a very emotional kind of guy, and it's hard not to tear up, thinking about all of the I don't have any kids. The closest thing I have is my amazing dog, who, as you notice, has not been made a sound. He's right behind me, behind my green screen. But this, I'm guessing, is what it feels like to see your children do something. Not just that they're born, but get that joy you get from them taking their first steps and things like that. I feel like it's got to be something similar to that. I know I can guarantee 100% certainty that once it actually comes in and I hold it in my hand, there's going to be one issue that can't be sent out because it's going to have tear stains all over it, because I'm going to be crying my eyes out, because it's a reality. It's really easy to have dreams. It's also easy to follow dreams. It's not always easy to realize them. Yeah. And I'm on the cusp, potentially, of realizing the first of the dreams. And yeah, it's hard to put in. And anyone who knows me, if JJ's still in the chat, he's probably he's speechless. I've never seen this before. I'm very, very seldom can't find the words, and the amount of gratitude and the love and the joy that I feel from this, I can barely express it.
But I mean, Kyle, myself and Efren have only read or looked at the first couple of pages, and I can already tell you that it's blown me away, and I know it's blown Efren away. So,
Yep,
and
sure.
we are, and Efren can attest to this. We've done a few of these kind of shows now where people have sent us books and things, and we are always honest. We don't bullshit. Do you know what I mean? Because I think, as you've described, what's the point of just kissing someone's backside? In fact, the last one we did, we didn't. Well, I quite enjoyed it, but there was Efren, you weren't as keen, were you? But that's honest feedback for the creator. But I can honestly tell you that Ashcan, the pages I've looked at, have got me hooked. So I will definitely be. I'm going to go for the. I want my logo in it, Efren. I don't know about you, but I'm going to have my logo, a poster or something like that. I think so.
Pretty
that'll
cool.
be right.
Yeah.
So I think, hats off to you. You've done an incredible job. Efren, I think we've covered most of the questions. Is there any other question in particular? I've got one last one I'm going to ask. But is there anything else you want to touch on?
The last question about Halloween, since we're
so that was what I was going to ask. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, Kyle, I'm a big horror nerd. I love a good scary movie. We've got a separate channel and One Good Scare, which we do, and it's just been Halloween. And we've been talking zombies and monsters tonight. So I want to know the classic. What is your favourite scary movie? What's your favourite go-to horror?
So this is a hard question to answer because, and before I answer, I want to make sure that everyone understands that my favorite does not necessarily mean I think it's the best.
Absolutely.
There is a much bigger difference between quality and my favorite. Like the Green Lantern movie is horrible, but I still love it because it's Ryan Reynolds. So I will admit it's bad, but for me, and it's not even it is horror, but Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead for me, granted, any horror movie that is not just a lot of the Conjurings and something like those got too CGI'd and didn't really, didn't do it for me. But like if you want to talk classics, Evil Dead 2. Over Evil Dead 1. Evil Dead 1 was great, but I prefer Evil Dead 2. And Shaun of the Dead, of course, in my opinion, an all-time classic. But when you talk about your favorite, it's hard to say. But if I had to whittle it down, I'd probably say those two are probably my favorites.
Good picks, both good. Have you seen recent horrors? Have you seen Let Me In? That's very good.
No, I haven't seen Let Me In. There's a lot of movies that I haven't seen recently, and there's a big gap in there where I didn't see any because I couldn't stand where they went. The Orphan was actually the movie that brought me back into horror because that genuinely terrified me. And I have a thing. Dolls and like Chucky was my first horror movie that I ever saw as a kid. I was like 4. So from then on, anything dollish or anything like remotely like that freaks me out to no end. But that's probably
like a little Chucky there.
Probably there. See, and I love Chucky now. But before, oh my god, I would have ran out the door 20 years ago. Oh my god! But I do want to say a little throw out to Z Nation and Black Summer. Because those two are connected, by the way, which is awesome because you see the two tonal differences still connected in the same universe. Just that's how you can do both comedy zombie and real zombie. And I love it.
Good stuff, mate. Good stuff. Efren, sorry I've taken over, mate.
Oh, that's okay. Like I said, for some reason my computer, I can't click on anything, so I'm glad you came on with me, Peter. So thanks to Peter and James and some other guys, I'm starting to like horror movies a little bit more and more. Have you seen our previous videos? They just scare the bejesus out of me. I wouldn't even go near them. But little by little, I am starting to. It's a great genre.
Yes. And another great thing about the genre too, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, when it comes to like zombies in particular, if you find like a subsect of that genre that you like, it doesn't matter how good or how bad the movie is, you're still going to enjoy it. For some type of benefit and entertainment value. Like, I mean, there are some horrible zombie movies. So I'll just be like, I mean, we got to see some zombies die. That's pretty cool, right? You know what I mean? Like, there's always something to find that you can like. But if you're starting to watch some of the classics and the good ones, it's next level because it has everything. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. Horror is not just about jump scares and blood and guts. There's true stories and genuine fear comes from great storytelling,
Absolutely.
not CGI.
Absolutely. So we're doing a show after this. Actually, I'm going on to record with my pal James, because we review a horror movie each couple of weeks. So last night I was watching the original Fright Night. I don't know if you've seen that one. Stunning, absolutely stunning. You know, from '85, I think it is, still holds up. Efren, I think you could probably cope with Fright Night. It's not too scary.
I'm gonna put on my list to watch. So like little by little, I've been watching more and more scary movies. You know, I'm starting to appreciate the genre.
If you ever need recommendations, I am here, my friend. I love horror movies, and not just the blood and gory type of horror movies. There are. I actually just finished watching Scream 1, 2, and 3 for the first time in like probably about 10 years.
Wow.
You know, since I've watched them in order like that. And I remember thinking, I was watching the first one, going, "Man, this isn't as good as I remember." And then that last act, absolutely perfect storytelling, perfection to the T. And then how they played off any of the second and third ones, expanding on it is a horror movie, and we're gonna make fun of them while delivering an amazing horror movie.
Yeah.
You know, so like I definitely and that's so many different things you can do with horror, and I think it's just so malleable, and it's just a great sandbox that I get to play in now.
And also, you know, there are some amazing horror comics out there as well. There's some really, really good horror comics, and we'll include yours in that, obviously, Kyle. So,
Thank
so
you.
for those of you that are still watching, those that are watching on the rewind, please do go and check out Kyle's link tree there, or go onto Kickstarter and check out that link for him as well. Please do support him. You got 20 days left, did you say, Kyle?
20 days, yes. So we've been in it 10 days.
Good. So, well, I'll certainly be jumping on once I'm finished this, and I'll be pledging.
Thank you.
There we are. Efren, back to you, my friend.
So I think we're all done. Before we end it for today, Peter, what do you have coming up on your channel?
So tomorrow night over on my channel, we've got our live horror show, myself and James. So just picking up on all the weekly horror news and things like that. I've got Saturday Night Live, where we do all the geek culture stuff, all the movie news, reviews. Monday night, I've got one of my This Is My sessions on. Kyle, we'll have to talk about that, because I'd love to get you on a This Is My, it's an interview show where you get to show off some of your geeky toys and comics and things like that, stuff like that as well, whilst also challenging you with some tough questions. Okay. And also I've got my usual videos out, Efren. So yeah, as you know, I'm always busy.
I know. Kyle, Peter, I said one of the days he's going to be on like 7 days a week straight without stopping at all. This guy's on like a lot. But Kyle, what do you have coming up on Instagram or YouTube or obviously Kickstarter?
So besides, the obvious, just plugging all of my Kickstarter everywhere, I have 2 James Tynion exclusives that I'm pushing out. I have a Dracula #1 exclusive variants. No, I have not. I've heard it's really good. Yeah. Because all the ones I had, that's product. I haven't bought my own personal copy yet. As well as World Tree #1. Yeah. I have both of those exclusives through me. You can get as well. It's on my link tree. As well as doing my predictions. I do also wrestling content, so I'll be doing a live prediction special for the Crown Jewel pay-per-view on Saturday, live on the Junkie platform. It's 11 a.m. because the start time is at 1 p.m. So. For the pay-per-view, so I got to get on before I do that. But just my normal podcast every week, and just check out the comic book.
yeah.
Well, I think that's it for today, Kyle. I just want to say one more thing, man. I'm so proud of you. I mean, what you've done and what you've accomplished.
Stop! You can't do that to me on camera, man.
So I just wanted to say that, So
I do appreciate it, and I know you genuinely mean that, which is part of the reason why you're one of the few that got as early a look as you did, because I trusted and respect you, because I've known you for long enough to know the type of character you have. So coming from you, that means a lot. Yeah. Absolutely,
it's awesome what you're doing, man. Keep it up.
I'm gonna try. Do or do not. There is no try, but
Kyle, can I just clarify that your YouTube is Nerd Tween and Movie Podcast?
Yes.
Is that you? Good stuff.
Yep.
Okay. Brilliant.
All right, Peter, let's end it. You're going to have to end it because I can't do anything.
Nah. I think we should just talk all night.
Just stare.
Keep it going. Let me call my boss. Hey, boss, I'm not coming back to work today.
Okie dokie, ladies and gents. Thank you very much for everybody that's watched, and thank you to everybody watching on the Rewind. Huge thank you to Kyle. And please do go and check out his Kickstarter because it's phenomenal. And with that, we'll catch you all next time. So take care, everyone. Bye.
You're gonna have to end it.